I said that Juan had been sent to Cadiz, a pretty town, I recollect it well. 'Tis there the mart of the colonial trade is, or was before Peru learned to rebel. And such sweet girls. I mean, such graceful ladies. Their very walk would make your bosom swell. I can't describe it, though so much it strike, nor liken it. I never saw the like. But to our tale. The Donna Inez sent her son to Cadiz only to embark. To stay there had not answered her intent. But why? We leave the reader in the dark. 'Twas for a voyage the young man was meant, as if a Spanish ship were Noah's ark, to wean him from the wickedness of earth, and sent him like a dove of promise forth. Juan embarked. The ship got under way. The wind was fair, the water passing rough. A devil of a sea rolls in that bay, as I who've crossed it off know well enough. And standing upon deck, the dashing spray flies in one's face and makes it weather tough. And there he stood to take and take again. His first, perhaps his last, farewell of Spain. I can't but say it is an awkward sight to see one's native land receding through the growing waters. It unmans one quite, especially when life is rather new. I recollect Great Britain's coast looks white, but almost every other country's blue when gazing on them, mystified by distance, we enter on our nautical existence. His suite consisted of 3 servants and a tutor, the licentiate Pedrillo, who several languages did understand, but now lay sick and speechless on his pillow, and rocking in his hammock longed for land, his headache being increased by every billow, and the waves oozing through the porthole made his berth a little damp, and him afraid. 'Twas not without some reason, for the wind increased at night until it blew a gale, and though 'twas not much to a naval mind, some landsmen would have looked a little pale, for sailors are, in fact, a different kind. At sunset they began to take in sail, for the sky showed it would come on to blow and carry away perhaps a mast or so. As day advanced, the weather seemed to abate, and then the leak they reckoned to reduce, and keep the ship afloat, though 3 feet yet kept 2 hand and 1 chain pump still in use. The wind blew fresh again. As it grew late, a squall came on, and while some guns broke loose, a gust, which all descriptive power transcends, laid with one blast the ship on her beam ends. There she lay, motionless, and seemed upset. The water left the hold and washed the decks and made a scene men do not soon forget, for they remember battles, fires, and wrecks, or any other thing that brings regret or breaks their hopes or hearts or heads or necks. Thus, drownings are much talked of by the divers and swimmers who may chance to be survivors. At 8:30 o'clock, booms, hencoops, spars, and all things for a chance had been cast loose that still could keep afloat the struggling tars, for yet they strove, although of no great use. There was no light in heaven but a few stars. The boats put off all crowded with their crews. She gave a heel, and then a lurch to port, and going down head foremost, sunk in short. Then rose from sea to sky the wild farewell. Then shrieked the timid, and stood still the brave. Then some leaped overboard with dreadful yell, as eager to anticipate their grave. And the sea yawned around her like a hell, and down she sucked with her the whirling wave, like one who grapples with his enemy and strives to strangle him before he die. And first one universal shriek there rushed, louder than the loud ocean, like a crash of echoing thunder. And then all was hushed, save the wild wind and the remorseless dash of billows. But at intervals there gushed, accompanied with a convulsive splash, a solitary shriek, the bubbling cry of some strong swimmer in his agony. But in his native stream, the Guadalquivir, Juan, to lave his youthful limbs, was wont, and having learnt to swim in that sweet river, had often turned the art to some account. A better swimmer you could scarce see ever. He could perhaps have passed the Hellespont, as once, a feat on which ourselves we prided, Leander, Mr. Eaconhead, and I did. So here, though faint, emaciated, and stark, he buoyed his boyish limbs and strove to ply with the quick wave and gain, ere it was dark, the beach which lay before him high and dry. The greatest danger here was from a shark that carried off his neighbor by the thigh. As for the other two, they could not swim, so nobody arrived on shore but him. How long in his damp trance young Juan lay, he knew not, for the earth was gone for him, and time had nothing more of night nor day for his congealing blood and senses dim. And how this heavy faintness passed away he knew not, till each painful pulse and limb and tingling vein seemed throbbing back to life, for death, though vanquished, still retired with strife. His eyes he opened, shut, again unclosed, for all was doubt and dizziness. He thought he still was in the boat, and had but dozed, and felt again with his despair o'erwrought, and wished it death in which he had reposed. And then once more his feelings back were brought, and slowly by his swimming eyes was seen a lovely female face of 17. 'Twas bending close o'er his, and the small mouth seemed almost prying into his for breath, and chafing him, the soft warm hand of youth recalled his answering spirits back from death, and bathing his chill temples, tried to soothe each pulse to animation, till beneath its gentle touch and trembling care, a sigh to these kind efforts made a low reply. And lifting him with care into the cave, the gentle girl and her attendant, one young yet her elder, and of brow less grave, and more robust of figure, then begun to kindle fire, and as the new flames gave light to the rocks that roofed them, which the sun had never seen, the maid, or whatsoe'er she was, appeared distinct, and tall, and fair. I'll tell you who they were, this female pair, lest they should seem princesses in disguise. Besides, I hate all mystery, and that air of claptrap which your recent poets prize. And so, in short, the girls they really were, they shall appear before your curious eyes, mistress and maid. The first was only daughter of an old man who lived upon the water. A fisherman he had been in his youth, and still a sort of fisherman was he, but other speculations were in sooth added to his connection with the sea, perhaps not so respectable in truth. A little smuggling and some piracy left him at last the soul of many masters of an ill-gotten million of piastres. A fisher, therefore, was he, though of men, like Peter the Apostle, and he fished for wandering merchant vessels, now and then, and sometimes caught as many as he wished. The cargoes he confiscated, and gain he sought in the slave market too, and dished full many a morsel for that Turkish trade by which, no doubt, a good deal may be made. He was a Greek, and on his isle had built, one of the wild and smaller Cyclades, a very handsome house from out his guilt, and there he lived exceedingly at ease. Heaven knows what cash he got or blood he spilt. A sad old fellow was he, if you please, but this I know, it was a spacious building, full of barbaric carving, paint, and gilding. He had an only daughter called Haidee, the greatest heiress of the Eastern Isles. Besides, so very beautiful was she, her dowry was as nothing to her smiles. Still in her teens, and like a lovely tree, she grew to womanhood, and between whiles rejected several suitors, just to learn how to accept a better in his turn. And walking out upon the beach below the cliff, towards sunset, on that day she found, insensible, not dead, but nearly so, Don Juan, almost famished and half drowned. But being naked, she was shocked, you know, yet deemed herself in common pity bound as far as in her lay to take him in, a stranger dying, with so white a skin. But taking him into her father's house was not exactly the best way to save, but like conveying to the cat the mouse, or people in a trance into their grave. Because the good old man had so much nous, unlike the honest Arab thieves so brave, he would have hospitably cured the stranger, and sold him instantly when out of danger. And every day by daybreak, rather early for Juan, who was somewhat fond of rest, she came into the cave, but it was merely to see her bird reposing in his nest. and she would softly stir his locks so curly without disturbing her yet slumbering guest, breathing all gently o'er his cheek and mouth, as o'er a bed of roses the sweet south. And thus a moon rolled on, and fair Haidee paid daily visits to her boy, and took such plentiful precautions that still he remained unknown within his craggy nook. At last her father's prows put out to sea for certain merchantmen upon the look, not as of yore to carry off an Io, but 3 Ragusan vessels bound for Skyo. Now she prolonged her visits and her talk, for they must talk, and he had learnt to say so much as to propose to take a walk, for little had he wandered since the day on which, like a young flower snapped from the stalk, drooping and dewy on the beach he lay. And thus they walked out in the afternoon, and saw the sun set opposite the moon. It was a wild and breaker-beaten coast, with cliffs above, and a broad sandy shore, guarded by shoals and rocks as by an host, with here and there a creek whose aspect wore a better welcome to the tempest-tossed, and rarely ceased the haughty billows' roar, save on the dead, long summer days, which make the outstretched ocean glitter like a lake. And the small ripples spilt upon the beach scarcely o'erpassed the cream of your champagne, when o'er the brim the sparkling bumpers reach, that spring dew of the spirit, the heart's rain. Few things surpass old wine, and they may preach who please, the more because they preach in vain. Let us have wine and women, mirth and laughter, sermons and soda water the day after. The coast, I think it was the coast that I was just describing, yes, it was the coast, lay at this period quiet as the sky, the sands untumbled, the blue waves untossed, and all was stillness, save the seabird's cry and dolphin's leap, and little billow crossed by some low rock or shelf that made it fret against the boundary it scarcely wet. It was the cooling hour, just when the rounded red sun sinks down behind the azure hill, which then seems as if the whole earth it bounded, circling all nature, hushed and dim and still, with the far mountain crescent half surrounded on one side, and the deep sea calm and chill upon the other, and the rosy sky with one star sparkling through it like an eye. And thus they wandered forth, and hand in hand, over the shining pebbles and the shells, glided along the smooth and hardened sand. And in the worn and wild receptacles worked by the storms, yet worked as it were planned in hollow halls, with sparry roofs and cells, they turned to rest, and each clasped by an arm, yielded to the deep twilight's purple charm. They looked up to the sky, whose floating glow spread like a rosy ocean vast and bright. They gazed upon the glittering sea below, whence the broad moon rose circling into sight. They heard the waves splash, and the wind so low, and saw each other's dark eyes darting light into each other, and beholding this, their lips drew near and clung into a kiss. A long, long kiss, a kiss of youth and love and beauty, all concentrating like rays into one focus, kindled from above. Such kisses as belong to early days, where heart and soul and sense in concert move, and the blood's lava and the pulse ablaze, each kiss a heart-quake. For a kiss's strength, I think it must be reckoned by its length. By length, I mean duration. Theirs endured, heaven knows how long, no doubt they never reckoned. And if they had, they could not have secured the sum of their sensations to a second. They had not spoken, but they felt allured as if their souls and lips each other beckoned, which being joined like swarming bees they clung, their hearts the flowers from whence the honey sprung. They were alone, but not alone as they who shut in chambers think it loneliness. The silent ocean and the starlight bay, the twilight glow which momently grew less, the voiceless sands and dropping caves that lay around them, made them to each other press, as if there were no life beneath the sky save theirs, and that their life could never die. They feared no eyes nor ears on that lone beach. They felt no terrors from the night. They were all in all to each other. Though their speech was broken words, they thought a language there, and all the burning tongues the passions teach found in one sigh the best interpreter of nature's oracle. First love, that all which Eve has left her daughters since her fall. She loved and was beloved. She adored and she was worshipped. After nature's fashion, their intense souls into each other poured. If souls could die, had perished in that passion. But by degrees their senses were restored, again to be o'ercome, again to dash on. And beating against his bosom, Hades' heart felt as if never more to beat apart. Alas, they were so young, so beautiful, so lonely, loving, helpless, and the hour was that in which the heart is always full, and having o'er itself no further power, prompts deeds eternity cannot annul, but pays off moments in an endless shower of hell fire, all prepared for people giving pleasure or pain to one another living. Alas for Juan and Haidee, they were so loving and so lovely. Till then never, excepting our first parents, such a pair had run the risk of being damned forever. And Haidee, being devout as well as fair, had doubtless heard about the Stygian river and hell and purgatory, but forgot, just in the very crisis she should not. They look upon each other, and their eyes gleam in the moonlight, and her white arm clasps round Juan's head, and his around her lies, half buried in the tresses which it grasps. She sits upon his knee and drinks his sighs, he hers, until they end in broken gasps. And thus they form a group that's quite antique, half naked, loving, natural, and Greek. And when those deep and burning moments passed, and Juan sunk to sleep within her arms, she slept not, but all tenderly, though fast, sustained his head upon her bosom's charms. And now and then her eye to heaven is cast, and then on the pale cheek her breast now warms, pillowed on her o'erflowing heart, which pants with all it granted, and with all it grants. An infant when it gazes on a light, a child the moment when it drains the breast, a devotee when soars the host in sight, an Arab with a stranger for a guest, a sailor when the prize has struck in fight, a miser filling his most hoarded chest, feel rapture, but not such true joy are reaping as they who watch o'er what they love while sleeping. For there it lies so tranquil, so beloved, all that it hath of life with us is living, so gentle, stirless, helpless, and unmoved, and all unconscious of the joy it is giving. All it hath felt, inflicted, passed, and proved, hushed into depths beyond the watcher's diving. There lies the thing we love with all its errors and all its charms, like death without its terrors. The lady watched her lover, and that hour of loves and nights and ocean solitude o'erflowed her soul with their united power. Amidst the barren sand and rocks so rude, she and her wave-worn love had made their bower, where naught upon their passion could intrude. And all the stars that crowded the blue space saw nothing happier than her glowing face. Alas, the love of women! It is known to be a lovely and a fearful thing, for all of theirs upon that die is thrown. And if 'tis lost, life hath no more to bring to them but mockeries of the past alone. And their revenge is as a tiger's spring, deadly and quick and crushing, yet as real torture is theirs. What they inflict they feel. They are right, for man, to man so oft unjust, is always so to women. One sole bond awaits them, treachery is all their trust. Taught to conceal, their bursting hearts despond over their idol, till some wealthier lust buys them in marriage. And what rests beyond? A thankless husband, next a faithless lover, then dressing, nursing, praying, and all's over. Some take a lover, some take drams or prayers, some mind their household, others dissipation. Some run away, and but exchange their cares, losing the advantage of a virtuous station. Few changes e'er can better their affairs, theirs being an unnatural situation, from the dull palace to the dirty hovel. Some play the devil, and then write a novel. Haidee was nature's bride, and knew not this. Haidee was passion's child, born where the sun showers triple light, and scorches even the kiss of his gazelle-eyed daughters. She was one made but to love, to feel that she was his who was her chosen. What was said or done elsewhere was nothing. She had naught to fear, hope, care, nor love beyond. Her heart beat here. And oh, that quickening of the heart, that beat, how much it costs us. Yet each rising throb is in its cause as its effect so sweet that wisdom, ever on the watch to rob joy of its alchemy and to repeat fine truths, even conscience, too, has a tough job to make us understand each good old maxim. So good, I wonder Castlereagh don't tax 'em. And now 'twas done. On the lone shore were plighted their hearts. The stars, their nuptial torches, shed beauty upon the beautiful they lighted. Ocean their witness, and the cave their bed, by their own feelings hallowed and united. Their priest was solitude, and they were wed. And they were happy, for to their young eyes each was an angel, and earth paradise. O love, of whom great Caesar was the suitor, Titus the master, Antony the slave, Horace, Catullus scholars, Ovid tutor, Sappho the sage blue stocking, in whose grave all those may leap who rather would be neuter. Leucadia's rock still overlooks the wave. O love, thou art the very god of evil, for after all we cannot call thee devil. Thou makest the chaste connubial state precarious, and jestest with the brows of mightiest men. Caesar and Pompey, Mahomet, Belisarius, have much employed the muse of history's pen. Their lives and fortunes were extremely various. Such worthies time will never see again. Yet to these four in three things the same luck holds. They all were heroes, conquerors, and cuckolds. Thou makest philosophers. There's Epicurus and Aristippus, a material crew, who to immoral courses would allure us by theories quite practicable, too. If only from the devil they would insure us, how pleasant were the maxim, not quite new. Eat, drink, and love, what can the rest avail us? So said the royal sage Sardanapalus. But Juan, had he quite forgotten Julia? And should he have forgotten her so soon? I can't but say it seems to me most truly a perplexing question. But no doubt the moon does these things for us, and whenever newly a strong palpitation rises, 'tis her boon. Else how the devil is it that fresh features have such a charm for us poor human creatures? I hate inconstancy. I loathe, detest, abhor, condemn, abjure the mortal made of such quicksilver clay that in his breast no permanent foundation can be laid. Love, constant love, has been my constant guest. And yet, last night, being at a masquerade, I saw the prettiest creature, fresh from Milan, which gave me some sensations like a villain. In the meantime, without proceeding more in this anatomy, I finish now 200 and odd stanzas as before, that being about the number I'll allow each canto of the 12 or 24. And laying down my pen, I make my bow, leaving Don Juan and Haidee to plead for them and theirs with all who deign to read.